It's not just about words. Okay. A lot of people will say, oh, you could just turn, just close the laptop, close the laptop and move on, walk away. But what do you do when the harassment leaves leaves the internet? What do you do when you have people showing up or people creating false narratives, going after sponsors, going after your people, your friends, your family? Some unfortunate news. Don't really have positive stuff to talk about right now, unfortunately. So let's get right into it. This was brought to my attention by Yeet. Also, I've seen it kind of floating around a little bit. There's a creator by the name of Mikayla who unfortunately ended up taking her own life due to the harassment that she was facing online, and it just got to her. Apparently there was nothing that she couldn't handle it anymore. And it's not, it's a tale as old as time. It's not something that hasn't happened. It's not something that is new. It's not something that is going to end up being eradicated in the future. I mean, I would love for it to be that way, but I just don't really see that happening. So Save a Fox founder Mikayla passes away after a long-term harassment from online communities. Many are pointing fingers at the Save a Fox snark subreddit, which has gone private, and that's kind of what these areas on the internet, is what they do, right? They end up going dormant. They start abandoning ship. They start throwing things away. They start deleting everything. They do their best to try and get above it, or out in front of it, as it's said, in an effort to try and obfuscate their hand in all of this. And kind of like what Misanthrope was saying is that they'll end up saying things like, oh, well, she had her demons, or, oh, I can't believe you allowed the internet to bully you or to cause you to do this or that. It's just one of those things that accountability is a lot of people's kryptonite. But this is her. This is Alyssa Ray, the Fox and Coffee. A bunch of people have come out in support of her. A bunch of people have come out to basically give their RIPs, their sorrows, and it's terrible. It's unfortunate. It's somebody created a sanctuary for foxes, right? For any animal whatsoever, whether it's animals, people, whatever it might end up being. They created somewhere for these creatures to live peacefully, and they're rewarded by constant harassment for no other reason than it seems is for people's entertainment. So Fox and Coffee, this is a huge loss to the Fox community. RIP Mikayla, Save a Fox Corporation. This is a reminder to the internet, your words matter. Be nice to people, for fuck's sake. We lost a good one. And the other thing about it too, right, is it's not just about words. Okay. A lot of people will say, oh, you could just turn, just close the laptop and move on. Hey, what's up, Georgie? And, close the laptop, walk away. But what do you do when the harassment leaves the internet? What do you do when you have people showing up or people creating false narratives, going after sponsors, going after your people, your friends, your family, people who aren't savvy with the internet, like a lot, like creators are or commentators are? What exactly do you tell them then when people are swatting you, when people are doxing you, when people are going after the foundation that you created? And the worst part about it is it ended up being even people that she knew, friends that she thought were close to her, friends that she thought she could trust, were participating in this online and IRL harassment, which is, it's despicable, it's deplorable, it's disgusting. It's one of those things where there's not enough words in the dictionary to describe the vitriol I have for people who are like this. It's one thing to be all jokey. It's one thing to rib your friend or do a little shit talking back and forth. It's another thing to actually make it your mission to make somebody else's life harder for no other reason than your sick enjoyment. Here we have H3, who was one of the people that I actually ended up seeing this off of. Save a Fox founder Mikayla dies by suicide following online harassment from snark subreddit. This is on Instagram. This is on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. They also have a video that was put out that we're going to be watching as well. And then we have down here where they have let the news be hit on Reddit. They said, I would like to add that I couldn't find the Save a Fox Snark subreddit. It seems they have followed suit as the H3 snarkers and nuked their page. If you remember, when it came to H3, when it came to Ethan stating that he was going to be suing the H3 snark subreddit, they decided to basically abandon ship. A lot of them, they started cleaning house, they went private, they started deleting a bunch of things, but none of it matters because you're doing all of this after the fact, right? You're doing all of this after all of the evidence has been gathered. You're doing all of this after what sounds like they had a fox in the hen house, no pun intended in this situation, and people were giving out the information to these moderators and to these snarkers of the things that they were doing. The evidence to this claim is by followers of their Instagram on their post of Mikayla's death. If you would like to donate to the foundation, you can on their website. Highly recommend anybody who watches this, if you do have the ability to, by all means do it. I love animals. I love, my favorite animal is a reptile. So like lizards, crocodiles, snakes, etc., etc. That's my thing. But to me personally, these are areas in which we need. I'm not a big tree hugger. I'm not a major green person or anything like that, but I do love the beauty of nature. And as humanity expands, we are seeing an extreme reduction in the animals and in the nature that is around us. It's one thing to be able eventually think about the animals that you can see at the zoo. Eventually you're not going to be able to see them anymore. You're going to be looking at lions and cheetahs and tigers through the Discovery Channel, and it's going to be, this is now extinct. Remember back in the day, this, that, and the third, right? Imagine a world where dogs and cats are extinct. It's crazy to think because a lot of, domesticate or undomesticated cats are a reason for the dropping population for birds. And that's why these sanctuaries are so incredibly necessary. And a lot of the time, these animals that are considered vermin, like foxes are considered to be big game hunting, as wolves are, they end up getting hunted to extinction or close to extinction for other people's game. Now, I'm not against hunting. I'm in no way, shape, or form am I against hunting. I'm a proponent of guns. I think hunting is fantastic. I don't, however, think about just going out and blasting an animal just because, it makes me feel good or something of that nature. That's why we have it controlled. That's why you have to go and get licensed. That's why you're only allowed a certain amount of tags, and you're only allowed to hunt things of a certain age, etc., etc. Now, this person responds and says subreddit is privated. If you search Save a Fox Snark on Google, you can see the link to a private sub. It's really gross that Reddit allows and sometimes even encourages this behavior. And I have to agree. I mean, look at what happened with Ethan, right? On the H3 Snark subreddit, he had human skulls sent to him. People were, brigading the idea of, or brigading is probably not the right word, but people were perpetuating and pushing and encouraging the idea of sending CPS to his house. And Reddit is a forum in and of itself, right? And there's a reason why there's the, I forget exactly what the legal statute is in the law, but the safe haven statute, right? Where you can, if you provide a place for people to post, like a forum like Reddit is, then people are protected from the actions that are taken or done by the people who post. The reason for this is to not discourage people, creators such as Reddit, Twitter, etc., from, not hosting this domain. On the other hand, though, you do need, in my personal opinion, you need a much harder regulations on these things, because when you get these people together who their only objective is to cause mayhem and to harass people online and nothing is really done about it, then you're going to continue to have more people like Mikayla. You're going to continue to have more people who are only trying to do good in this world and are unfortunately cut down long before they're able to accomplish the goals in which they have. Not everybody is terminally online. Not everybody is able to handle stress the same. Not everybody is able to handle harassment in the same way, right? So here we have just a bunch of outpouring people coming after, but at the same time, we also have people. So like here, it says, I know this will be pretty unpopular here, but there is probably way more to the story. All the screenshots from the Snark page so far don't show any harassment. And then you have Reddit's constant destructive nature has constantly broken their containment. Their moderation is in on it, existing and egging on extremists. Most of the normal people have long since fled. It's just organized anger, delusion, and hatred. So we're seeing the duality of man here. People are on two separate angles or two separate areas. Evidence is obviously going to be necessary to see exactly what it is that this person was going through, and what would constitute as harassment is going to be something that you yourself decide. Is, saying, oh, you're a slut or something like that, or you touch kids or blah, blah, blah. If it's contained to a single page, does that really constitute as harassment? In my personal opinion, no, it does not. But if you turn around and are calling, the sanctuary, calling other sanctuaries, calling sponsors, calling the police on them, calling, doing these things, sending packages, sending hate mail, attacking them on their personal pages and stuff like that, that is harassment. So we're going to take a look at the video that they ended up posting. Save a Fox ended up posting this. I believe this is a friend, a relative. I don't know if, I guess the person will probably end up saying, but this is the person who ended up breaking the news on YouTube. And this clips of this video are going around. If you are one of those people who cries, who is a sympathetic crier, just be forewarned. If you if the subject of death and suicide and all of that stuff gets you going, just be forewarned about this, okay?
Hi, everyone. I just want to start this video out by saying parental advisory. This is not a video for children. And a trigger warning. Some of the things you're about to hear are going to be triggering for some people. I don't have approval from the board to make this video, but I have to say what needs to be said. I have to. This is a video I never planned on making, and it's
What's up, EBG Grimly?
It's completely devastating having to sit down and write this out. But a couple days ago, Mikayla Rains passed away. This is the most hurtful and difficult time of my life, so please bear with me as I try to read this through the tears. Mikayla was the most bright and shining example of what you could accomplish if you really set your mind to something. She was never held back by ideas that everyone else considered unrealistic. As many of you know, she was on the autism spectrum, and while that made her life very difficult, it allowed her to hyper-focus on one thing, and that one thing was obviously animals. From a young age, she dedicated every waking hour of her life to helping them, whether it was helping.
And, see, that's even another thing, too. I had no idea that she was autistic, and that in and of itself is a struggle. Now, there are different types. There's functioning autism. There's high functioning, low functioning. There's different levels of mental health. But even then and of itself, autism is something that people have to deal with on a daily basis, whether it's medication, whether it's learning coping mechanisms, whether it's learning how to interact with the world around them. And nobody can really teach an autistic person or any person who has mental health how to deal with those things outside of somebody else, right? Think about it for yourself. If you end up having a child who has Down syndrome or autism or something of that nature, you don't have it yourself. You've never dealt with it. You've never had to go through it. You feel like you can't help this person, right? It would be the same thing as like a mother trying to teach a son how to be a man, or a father trying to teach a woman how to be a strong and independent woman. You can only teach so much based off of what your own experience is. So the fact that she was dealing with harassment, both online and offline, along with being autistic, that autism, depending on where she falls on that spectrum, could have enhanced this. And a lot of autistic people are hyper focused. They have an issue with being able to tear themselves away from what they're, looking at. They are incredibly hyper fixated on things. And what do we think about the most, right? We don't think about the good times a lot. We focus on the dark, the negative, the terrible times, right? Things that are just incredibly difficult for most people or not necessarily difficult, but things that are easier for us to walk away from and just be like, I don't care anymore. A lot of the time, autistic people will end up being like doom scrollers, where they're constantly looking at things online. You know what I'm saying? Hard teaching my son that. Yeah, Jess, it's difficult, but it's easier when you have it yourself, right? As autism is one of those things that can most typically be passed down. But at the same time, even if it wasn't, it's still a difficult, even if you understand it, even if you have it yourself, everybody is different. Everyone's mind works differently, and people won't always have the ability to teach somebody, how to deal with it. So that's unfortunate that she was also struggling with that.
A snapping turtle crossed the road, or saving 500 foxes from a terrible fur farm. She was never in it for fame, money, or personal gain. She was truly one of the most selfless people I have ever known. She put the animals' well-being over her own time and time again. She would forgo sleep, eating, and showering if there was an animal that needed her help. And it was not just foxes. I've seen her help birds, reptiles, sheep, squirrels. I truly believe when it came to animals, she could do anything. She would build the strongest bonds with all of the animals here, constantly working to earn their trust and create a lasting connection. Every single animal here just lost their best friend. And over the course of her life, she was responsible for saving into the 4 figures of animals, and all of your support made that possible. She would always love the letters that you would send, the pictures and paintings that the children made, and the kind words and comments in your posts.
And see, that's another thing too, right? When somebody becomes this, or not becomes, but when somebody puts themselves in a position to be saving people, right? Firefighters, police officers, military, or mentors, anything of that nature, they end up becoming a beacon for other people. They end up becoming a role model for others, you know what I'm saying? And so you're not just targeting some just normal or, some random person online. You're not just going after this person. You're going after somebody that people look up to. And I think personally, it's genuine for somebody to want to care about animals, whether you're caring about animals, caring about the environment, caring about people, whatever it is that you're doing. It's good to have role models like that, especially in a world where we're so go to the point that, we are the only species in the world that is trying to make ourselves obsolete. We are also the only species in the world that is moving itself further and further towards extinction. Now, of course, this is, hundreds of thousands, potentially years, or not hundreds of thousands, but thousands and thousands of years into the future that stuff will be, and could end up happening. But at the same time, there's nothing wrong with somebody wanting to be good and wanting to do good. But the general consensus, especially online, is that those people, they just can't be good. They just can't be that good of a person. And people try to take them down a notch. You see other people being glorified for their glorified for the things that they do, right, for being bad or stuff of that nature, they very rarely will be getting, you know, targeted harassment. If anything, they're getting harassment from the opposition of you should be a better person, right? And if your argument is you should be a better person, you're not going to be, you know, swatting this person generally. But at the same time, it's unfortunate that the people that were looking up to her now have to deal with the fact that she's gone, she has passed on.
Her words were heard by millions and has affected more lives personally than I could ever hope to count. She was not just a rescuer, but an advocate. Her legacy is Save a Fox. And despite her being the most important part of that, I am not going to let it stop here. I will do whatever I can to see Save a Fox keep moving forward to save as many lives as possible.
Good man.
I gave Mikayla all of my love and energy, and I will do the same with this rescue going forward. As long as you are all here to support us, we can do this. And I will try to keep the content coming since that is such an important part of our funding. As long as you all can continue donating, interacting online, buying merch, and coming here for tours, we can continue to help the many helpless animals that need us, and educate and bring awareness to everyone. This is what Mikayla would want, and I have to see her goals and dreams be realized. Aside from being the amazing superhero of animals, Mikayla was also a wonderful wife and a caring mother.
And okay, so it seems like this man is his or her husband, and that's the other thing too, that, you know, you're taking away a mom from her kids, you're taking away a wife from her husband. This is just one of those things, man. And the worst part about it is that the accountability is almost never taken, right? People will turn around and be like, oh, it was just jokes. Oh, it was just jokes. Oh, why would you let that affect you? You know, it's the same thing as I've said previously, where it's like you slap somebody, they slap you back, and then you're like, what was that for? Whoa, I didn't do anything wrong. Accountability is one of the most difficult things for a lot of people to take, for a lot of people to actually be accountable for their actions, you know, and it's deplorable. I have never understood why somebody's can garner satisfaction from attacking people who just want to be good in this world, just want to do good in this world. Personally, for me, it's not something that I'm like, I don't know. It's one thing to go after people who deserve it. It's a whole other thing to go after people simply because you don't like the fact that they're good.
Every day I would wake up to a list from her on exactly what we needed to accomplish in the day. Her work ethic was, for lack of better words, relentless. But we did everything together. Despite her pouring out all of her love for the animals, she still found some love to give to me.
Bullies are rarely logical, Neon. You're absolutely correct. I 100% agree with you, brother. And boy, oh boy, once they start having to take accountability, all of a sudden they go from being bullies to the biggest freaking crybabies out there. All of a sudden they start, you know, they end up in a courtroom or in a lawsuit, or they end up having people do the same thing to them. And all of a sudden, it's like, what'd you say fuck me for? What did I do? Nah.
I have never shared a bond with anyone the way I have with her. We spent nearly every moment of every day together. And now half of me is missing.
Facts, Neon. Bully to pussy in 2 seconds. I feel for this, man.
She had so many lofty goals and aspirations, and she would
Jinx, Neon. See, yeah, it's one, and I attribute this back to my grandfather. You know, the only time I ever saw my grandfather cry in front of me, right, was when he was going in for his bypass surgery. Okay, and not to get emotional, you know, don't get all gay on me or anything like that. But the only time I ever saw that man cry It wasn't when he put a nail into his knee on accident. It wasn't, when he was doing backbreaking labor to put food on the table. Obviously, I didn't really see all of that. It wasn't when he was taking care of his wife who had suffered a stroke and lost the ability on half of her body. The only time I ever saw that man cry was when he was scared that he was going to be leaving his wife with nobody to care for her. And not necessarily that, right? Because obviously all the family takes turns caring for her. The neighborhood is amazing over there where she lives. We have the neighbors taking the trash out, mowing the lawn, all that. The only time he cried was when he was in the hospital bed and he was scared to leave his family. He was scared not of dying. Well, let me rephrase. Scared of dying, but scared of the fact that he was leaving behind the people he loved, right? This man was incredibly selfless, and that was the one and only time in my 18 years of life that I've ever saw that man cry. And it's just, it's heartbreaking. This woman dedicates her life to doing good, being a force of good and loving and caring. And a group of people just looked at that and decided, I don't like that. And I don't like you. And we're going to do everything we can to make your life a living hell.
Push and push until it got done. But despite all of this, she was a best friend to Freya. And every day she would teach her how to interact with respect and care for the animals here. They would go on pony rides together, swing in the fox yards, and take care of Freya's little cockroaches. The first thing Freya would want every morning is mommy. But through all of this, for her entire life, she struggled. She struggled with autism, with depression, with borderline personality disorder, and more.
And see, now that's another one. Borderline personality disorder. Growing up, I had a friend who had BPD, and watching him switch, but not, he's not switching personalities, but watching the emotion from being able to go incredibly happy to incredibly depressed to angry to sad. It was one of those things where it was like almost like looking at an alien, right? Almost like it's a thing of fiction, not a thing of fiction, but it's something that you like rarely see in the movies, right? Or not rarely, but that you feel like you only ever see in the movies, right? Nothing is real to you until it's in front of you a lot of the time, right? Like everybody knows what cocaine looks like, but it's a whole other thing to have a bag of it in front of you. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a whole other thing, but the level of like being lost in him, in his eyes, in the way he carried himself, the lack of motivation, the constant questioning of what's the point of continuing on in life and wanting more for life if all he's going to be doing is struggling for the rest of his life to contain this diagnosis, this disorder of his. And I'm happy that, after we ended up parting ways past high school, and I ended up, randomly being able to see, his social media, that he had changed the way he felt. He had moved forward. He wasn't okay with just settling anymore and wanted to live life to the fullest. And I'm happy for him on that. And it's amazing. But I can only imagine the struggle between having autism, BPD, trying to keep it all together, running a sanctuary, which generally is a nonprofit. I don't know. I mean, obviously they do have some profit portions of it if they're doing tours and stuff of that nature. Probably also was paid maybe to go and do speeches and to talk and to help out other sanctuaries and stuff of that nature. So, but it's this woman sounds as though she had the weight of the world on her shoulders for a lot of this and continued to wake up every day with the mindset of making it a little better than when she left it than when she left it yesterday. And unfortunately, she's never going to have another tomorrow. She's never going to have another yesterday.
She was always in and out of different kinds of therapy, trying various mood stabilizers and meds, but nothing really seemed to help.
I know I'm pausing a lot, but I also want to touch on that. That's another thing. Like, it's one thing to have to deal with all of these types of disorders, but the absolute frustration that comes from somebody's medication not working, not helping, feeling like they're losing themselves because nothing seems to be working. And that just, it leads into further depression and leads into somebody questioning, what's the point of living? What's the point of going on? It does definitely sound like she had her demons and she did everything she could to, push them off. And there's a quote, right? A quote that a lot of people play and say, and it's like, if ever, what is it? It's like, if ever if you never hear from me again, I'm paraphrasing here. It's like, if you never hear from me again, just know that I put up as best of a fight, or I put up as good of a fight as I could, and it's like, don't be sad. I did everything I could. I just reached my limit. Now that is an isolated thing because this person had extra stress put on her by a group of individuals who wanted nothing more than to just tear someone down.
Simple tasks were hard for her. Looking at her from the outside, you could never tell what was going on in her head, but even just socializing would send her over the edge. Looking at a cluttered restaurant menu would make her just want to leave. And wearing the jeans that she loved would give her so many sensory problems that it could ruin her entire day. And if you follow her personal page, she loved helping educate people about the problems that she and others faced on a daily basis. She would stay up late at night writing away about things out of her control and how she would attempt to cope with them. She made posts and discussed autism awareness so that it could be spread and help everyone understand just how difficult life can be for those on the spectrum. And she was so sensitive to everything, which is a double-edged sword because on one hand, it allowed her endless empathy for those in her care, but it also means that she took everything negative to heart.
Yeah.
And now I want to talk about how words, whether spoken in person or written online, can affect someone.
Now, this is the main crux of why I wanted to react to this. Oftentimes, right, the best of friends can become the worst of enemies. The only people who can hurt you more than anyone else is those that you care about and those that you trust, right? And I saw this portion of the clip. Everything previous to this I hadn't seen yet, but I saw this portion of the video in a clip, and it's what really made me want to react to this and really made me want to talk about it.
For a few years, a group of people had been throwing dirt on Mikayla's name and the rescue. Most of these are people she knew, and some of them are other animal sanctuaries.
So the people who were actually targeting her in real life, right, or even online, are people that she knew and other competing sanctuaries, people who would have better income, right? Not the friends, I don't know about that, but other sanctuaries throwing dirt on her name in an effort to discourage people from going there, in an effort to have people in an effort to go ahead and run that sanctuary down simply because they want profit for themselves, which is just absolutely disgusting. I mean, you're both in the business of being a sanctuary, of helping animals, of trying to get them to thrive, of stopping an extinction for a certain species, right? So why is it that the level of competitiveness gets to the point of harassment when working together would be so much easier? And I don't like to be all kumbaya, generally I'm a very fuck you type of person, pick myself up by the bootstraps and get moving. But you're literally in the same business. You're both sanctuaries. You're both people, entities attempting to make the world a little bit better for the next generation and the generation after that. And yet you're trying to turn around and tear this woman down for no reason.
They consistently spread ridiculous claims and rumors, and being the sensitive human that she was, Mikayla took it all to heart. And it hurt her It hurt her a lot. But she pushed through. For years, she pushed through the pain of people trying to bring her down and the mental challenges she faced. And she still rescued hundreds of animals and changed the lives of so many. But recently, more of the rude words, accusations, and name-calling came from some of those she considered close friends. I think all of this stems from jealousy and envy.
Generally, it does.
She felt as if the entire world had turned against her. She had always battled with borderline personality disorder causing emotional instability, as well as impulsive behaviors. But this time it went too far. She couldn't bear what she was feeling any longer. And she ended her life. And it breaks my heart that someone who is selfless and devoted her life to animals could have so much negativity pointed at her. Why? That's all I can ask is why.
And it's a question that never really has an answer, because no answer is ever going to be good enough. Let's just be realistic, right? If somebody was to, let's say from the snark, right? From the Save a Fox snark, if they were to tell you that the reason they did it is for fun, it's an empty answer. It has no meaning behind it. It has no logic behind it. It has nothing to fulfill why, right? It's one thing if somebody ended up dying from cancer, right? That has an answer. It's unfortunate. Like you're saying, why did they get it? Why this? Da, 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 da. But here, there is absolutely no rhyme or reason as to why people would choose to do this. Now, if she was this horrible human being, which it sounds like she isn't, then it not justifies, let me rephrase, it adds more of an understanding as to why people would target her. But it doesn't seem like that's the case, right? And now this man is left to raise their child on his own, and will never have the answers for their child as to why mom is no longer around. At least not an answer that will satisfy those, the question, the emotion, the pain, the anger, the sadness, etc., etc.
In a world that's filled with darkness, she was just light. She was just light. And to those of you that pushed her to this, every one of you that had been responsible for making her feel this way, I wish you had to see me find her. And I wish you had to watch me perform CPR on her for 15 minutes until the first responders arrived.
Damn.
And I wish you had to watch helplessly as paramedics attempted to revive her lifeless body. And I wish you had to hear the screams and the cries of her family. I wish you had to see tiny heartbroken Freya try to understand why she could never see her mommy again. I wish you understood what you were doing before you did it, before it had to go this far. And I wish you understood that words do have real and terrible consequences. If you only have negative garbage to say, just shut up. And if you are feeling lost and hopeless, please reach out to someone, whether...
And I think the worst part about this is that people who engage in this type of activity are going to see this as a win. They're going to see this as vindication. They're going to see this as an accomplishment. You know what I'm saying? They're going to see this and they're going to look at it and high five each other and shit like that. Oh, they're going to, not all of them. I'm sure there are some of them who are going to turn around and be like, "Oh shit, like that this isn't what we wanted." But there are going to be those few depraved souls who are going to high five themselves over this woman's dead body.
Whether it's friends and family or calling a hotline. And to everyone else, please keep an eye on those around you. Look for the signs because they are there. Do something or say something before it's too late. Despite this being the biggest loss of my life and feeling like I have a literal hole in my chest, I will not let Mikayla's light be extinguished. And I won't let negativity win. And I won't let her mission fall apart. I am going to continue to push to rescue the remaining fur farm foxes, and after that, save as many animals as possible. But I will need your help. As long as you guys will continue to support all of us here at Save a Fox, we will keep pushing forward. I'm confident we can bring more light to this world, and we'll be doing it for Mikayla. For now, we all just need some space and some privacy, but I'll soon discuss a day where everyone can come here and pay their final respects.
It's a good man.
And I'm just going to end it with, I love you, Mikayla. I will always love you so much. And I miss you.
And I echo his sentiment there, you know, RIP to her. And if anyone is ever having any issues or anything like that, you know, it is one thing to stick to try and stick it out on your own. But if you find yourself losing that battle, if it's getting harder and harder to wake up every single morning and people tell you that there's always a light at the end of the tunnel, but you just can't see it, definitely reach out, talk to somebody, anybody. Hell, even if it's just a stranger. Sometimes you never know. You find yourself in a conversation with somebody and you're way more free and open with a stranger than you might be with somebody that you see on a daily basis. And it's because of the comfort of knowing that you're probably never seeing that person again. So thoughts and prayers go out to her, her husband, their kid, their daughter, I believe. If you're watching the VOD, the link in the description below will have this video along with the GoFundMe or I'm drawing a blank here. The GoFundMe, the fundraiser. There we go. So very unfortunate news, very sad. And it's crazy to see the opposition here, right? Where you have H3, somebody like Ethan Klein and Ela and all of them who are handling it. I'm sure they've had their days and their moments, but they have the money, they have the ability, they have the platform to fight back and to attack these people, to go after them, to sue, to defend themselves basically. Whereas somebody like her, somebody like this family here, they don't have those same means. And it really does kind of go to show you that, you know, as much as people want to talk about not having money or money isn't everything, god damn if it don't help in this situation where you can defend yourself properly. But I don't know. I don't think having all the money in the world would help all too much when she was struggling with so much. But I feel for this man, and I hope the best for the family. I hope the best for the sanctuary. And I honestly hope the best for repercussions when it comes to the people who engaged in this, especially the ones that were claiming to be their friends, other sanctuaries and stuff of that nature. Okay. Hey guys, out of respect, no outro for the video. If you can, please go and support the GoFundMe in the link below. Thank you.